This has got to be the weirdest Apple product launch like ever, and you know what? I'm all for it. It wasn't one, but actually 3 events, and since the company kept teasing that there was more to come on this week, it was worth it to just wait it out and make a single recap over what's new and why you should care. And listen, I'm all for this approach because otherwise this would have been a very long keynote where the benefits of each product would have had been condensed. At a time when hardware iteration is a thing and software or compute power updates are the new selling point, more detail is highly appreciated. Apple did confirm that this was the final day today, so I guess updates to the Mac Pro and Mac Studio will just have to wait, and those are still on M2 Ultra. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and it's time for another deep dive, this time for Apple's new Mac updates across the board. Let's begin today's video with the iMac as this was the first announcement. The company has announced an updated version with the M4 chip and a couple of new perks. Yes, I know it looks the same ever since the M1 variant, and we're still waiting for like the 32-inch variant, which never came, but bear with me because this might just be the right time to upgrade if you're considering it. Apple's new M4 chip for this model starts with either an 8 or 10-core CPU and up to a 10-core GPU. The basic model costs $12.99 and includes 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports. Higher-end models starting at $14.99 come with 4 ports, and this particular model is the one that actually allows extra perks. See, even if the screen size hasn't changed from 24 inches diagonal at 4.5K resolution, and we don't see improvements in the technology either, what you do get is the option to get nanotextured glass on the display of any of the 4-port variants. As opposed to the iPad Pro, where you could only get that option if you went for the most expensive variant, here all you need to do is choose 4 ports and pay an extra like $200. Another change that's coming across the board is that the peripherals have changed, sort of. So you still get the option for either a Magic Keyboard with a Magic Trackpad or Magic Mouse. You will get to now be able to charge them with USB-C. Yes, same way to charge the mouse from the bottom, but on a new connector. Oh well. Maybe the biggest reason to upgrade is because you're still getting a future-proof machine overall, thanks to all the demands of Apple Intelligence or whatever Apple is preparing, because pretty much the M1 does support it, but bear with me, as now all the new Macs are pretty much starting at 16 gigs of RAM, which match with the M4 is pretty sweet as a deal considering you had to pay extra to get this in the past. Another long overdue feature is that we finally get an upgraded 12-megapixel camera with center stage, so that's easier to move around as you make your video. Last but not least, you can choose from all the iMac colors now, which before depended on the variant. You had to go more expensive if you wanted to pick more colors. Now let's switch to the Mac Mini, which is actually the only model that got a dramatic refresh. We've been hearing rumors of this redesign for years, and it's finally here, though nothing like the rumors claimed. This new Mac Mini is much smaller though. I would say nearly half the size of the previous model, and yet it's far more powerful. And some of the new design choices make so much more sense than before. For example, this new design now takes advantage of the fact that Apple Silicon doesn't really need much footprint to perform or remain cool, and still the cooling system is pretty awesome. I also like that you now get lots of ports at the back and also 2 USB-C ports along with the headphone jack at the front, which make using it so much more practical. The power button at the bottom is kind of weird, but if I'm honest, I rarely turn my Macs off anyways. At the base, it is now powered by Apple's M4 chip, which means there are a lot of firsts. This would be the first Mini to support ray tracing for gaming, and the first to launch with 16 gigs of RAM at the base, again, to have it ready for an even more powerful Apple Intelligence, I guess, in the future. It starts at $599, though, for a meager 256 gigs of storage. That said, just like before, this isn't the only SKU. Apple used this launch to announce its new M4 Pro chip, and it's pretty packed. We're talking of a starting 12-core CPU, which Apple claims is the fastest CPU core in the world. It then starts at a 16-core GPU, which doubles the capacity of even the M4, and it starts at a generous 24 gigs of RAM for $13.99, though, 512 gigs of storage here. This particular M4 Pro model was also the platform Apple used to announce its support for Thunderbolt 5, so it is pretty powerful overall. From video editing to graphics-intensive tasks to games to Apple Intelligence, this machine is very capable. Last but not least, Apple's final event was all about MacBooks. Apple introduced updates to its 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro laptops, starting with the base 14-inch MacBook Pro, which launches with M4 and brings all its benefits. This means that along with the benefits of added performance, the machine now starts at 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. I also think Apple heard requests of so many because now it has the same 3 Thunderbolt ports as the higher tier Pro models, even if these remain Thunderbolt 4. This one retains its $50.99 price tag, and also notice that there isn't a space gray option anymore, only space black and silver, which is now available on all SKUs, but still, what happened to space gray? Now, speaking of the higher tier models, we get to see the M4 Pro variant, which launches with 24 gigs of RAM and 2 SKUs to pick from, with more or less cores and either 512 gigs or a terabyte of storage, along with perks like Thunderbolt 5 and a starting price of $19.99. Maybe the bigger story is the company's new M4 Max chip, which looks pretty hard to beat. This launch is a bit odd as we notice more SKUs for the 16-inch model, which was not the case before. Still, we're talking of a 14-core CPU, 32-core GPU, 36 gigs of starting RAM, and a terabyte of storage. And then the benefits are pretty much the same with the 16-inch model, but here you have 2 SKUs to pick from, with an option for 16 cores in the CPU, 40 cores in the GPU, 28 gigs of RAM, and the same terabyte of storage. Apple calls this the most powerful chip on a Pro computer, and I can't wait to test it out because I've been using the M3 Max back there, and it's a screamer. It's amazing. There are some other perks to this new MacBook Pro, like for example the option to get nano-textured glass, which might not be fully matte like in decades past, but I'm just glad to see a MacBook Pro with this option again. We also get a 12-megapixel center stage camera, which by the way can also do desk view capabilities, which is pretty cool. It now supports up to 4 external monitors, and obviously this chip opens the door to new capabilities, as we even hear that the neural engine is double the speed of last year's M3 chips, which means, yeah, more Apple Intelligence capabilities. Apple even teased new games coming to the Mac like Assassin's Creed Shadows and Cyberpunk 2077, to just name a few. To conclude, what can I say? New Macs and some changes that were long overdue. Those of you who got the M3 iMac just this year, I know, sad to see that this got upgraded so quickly. Also, even if the M3 Air remains in the market along with the M2 variant, both of these computers now start at 16 gigs of RAM for the same starting price, so yeah. And there's that. This isn't to say 8 gigs of RAM won't be capable of running Apple Intelligence. I mean, Apple claims it can even up to M1, but I highly recommend you consider selling those older computers or apply for a trade-in, because clearly there will be fragmentation coming soon if Apple is being so aggressive. And everything else, I do admit that I like what I see. Apple continues to be aggressive with its new chips, and that's what this market needs. All we're asking now is that Apple Intelligence hurries up with a bit more aggressiveness in the speed of its deployment. Let me know what you think about these new M4 computers in the comments down below, and while you're at it, follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. You'd also follow me on my personal handles to see me wonder what is going to happen with the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.